The average man doesn't want to be alone because that's when he has to face himself, his true self. No distractions, no hiding, just reality. Most men would rather have all the noise in their life drown everything out. Noise from women, friends, entertainment, or even social media. But a man who can't stand solitude will never be strong enough in a relationship or in any regard in his life. If you can't lead yourself in silence when it's just you on the table, then how can others feel dependent on you and see you as someone who's safe? So if you can't be alone, you'll always depend on others. And you'll depend on others to make you a better man. And we all know how that goes. So reflect on a time where you were alone once in your life, after a breakup or moving away from school, making new friends, and how you felt at first, being pretty empty and having it be a heavy burden on you, but also how it became freeing and how you were allowed to search for a new, greater purpose. Howdy, my name is Nolan T. Painter, a young aspiring man with aspirations greater than anyone will ever understand, and in today's video I want to talk about the art of being alone and why you need to. Now I just wanted to clarify that doesn't mean you have to live your whole life in solitude, and you can most certainly have friends in a relationship, but you need to spend time alone as a man, more than you'd think, just so that way you can reflect and grow. Now a good partner in a relationship and good friends will certainly help you with that, but the reality is that's unlikely, because those people don't come around unless they themselves have been alone. And if you're too busy spending time with them, then they're not busy enough working on themselves. So, solitude is where we build our identity, which is crucial because you want your identity to be a good one. You want to be known as the man who is hardworking and physically, mentally, and spiritually fit, and safety for women. A good man isn't defined by what he owns or who he's with. He's defined by everything he does and his actions. He's defined by what is left from him when you strip away all of his items that he owns and the people he hangs out, being what he chooses to do when he has nothing. Solitude removes these distractions, so it's like a fast track to making your identity, because all of a sudden you don't have people around you to dictate you, and you're going to have less items under this assumption that you're spending time alone and, clearly don't have as much with you, but you'll have less items to dictate your worth. So, in your solitude, this is where you find out who you really are, who you actually like. You'll learn about how you think. You'll learn about how to think. You'll build standards for who deserves to be near you. Friends, family, and even a woman. And this is important. So, the thing is though, you can't be a good partner or a good friend or a good family member if your identity only exists inside that relationship. If you're only nice to people in that relationship, smart people are going to pick that apart and choose to distance themselves from you. So you need to be a good man all around, all the time, which is hard. But that's why you need to spend time alone. When a woman senses that your entire self-worth depends on her or your friends or your family, she'll lose respect in you because that's a dependence on them. Not because she's cruel, but because women are naturally wired to trust stability and safety, not dependency. So when you show you can't even keep yourself safe, there's a natural inclination to leave you to yourself. Because being alone teaches you to love without clinging. It teaches you to be proud of yourself and work to yourself and strive for something so much greater. Moreover, it gives you time to work on the things you actually want. For myself, there was a lot of things I wanted to work on. Big movie scripts, editing projects, videos such as this one, school assignments, going to the gym and eating healthy, reading and getting into religion. Now I can do all of those things now that I'm alone. Moreover, being alone lets me build habits that I will continue when I spend more time with people, right? Being alone isn't just about getting things done, it's about building yourself into a man who's going to continue getting things done even into a relationship. So let's look at the difference between loneliness and solitude, because they are different and there are differences. So loneliness says, I need someone to fill the space. I need someone to fill my silence. I need someone to give me noise so I don't have to be concerned. That's loneliness. It's a desire. It's you want something. You're yearning for it. Solitude says, I can build something in the silence. Solitude says, I am alone, I know I'm alone, and I'm going to stay here so I can build something special. I was very lonely my whole life, but now, since I've reached this point, since I've gone through a lot of pain in my loneliness, leaving relationships, I'm now in a moment of solitude. So that doesn't mean being stoic and being emotionless. It means being grateful for the time I have to really work on the things that I want. I do desire a relationship. There's a woman whom I desire who's back home, who I pray is waiting for me every day, and I pray is happy, and I pray her beautiful family is happy. And in my solitude now, I'm spending my time to double down. Be a stronger man, be a smarter man, stop lusting. Love her more in a more gentle and ever amazing way, in a true good and beautiful way, rather than letting that love turn into frustration. Moreover, cutting myself from other people doesn't lead me astray. It doesn't bring me out to bad people who'd be bad influences, right? We all have a good idea of who a bad influence is, and there's a good likelihood that your friends are one of them, especially with women. Women like to pull men out and completely tarnish them. Not to their discredit, it's just naturally what they do. Because men are so attracted to them and they have this affinity to follow them around like dogs, men get deceived. So I've been doing my best to keep myself as single as possible in my solitude, which I'm grateful for. It's only made me a better man. Loneliness will drain me rather than solitude actually allowing me to build on myself. And the transformation happens when you stop feeling and when you stop fearing in your loneliness and start accepting it and using it as your solitude. So for example, pardon me, I have a bit of allergies right now, so my nose is all messed up. But for example, when you spend like the first weeks alone, it's gonna really hurt, especially after a breakup, especially after moving out to a big city. I just moved to a big city. I had to leave a beautiful relationship that, with a woman whom I would have wanted to make my wife one day, and I still do. I had to leave my family and all my friends. I had to leave everything to come out here to go to this place where I'm at now. And it hurt. It hurt a lot. But, in that time, because time is ever-bearing and is surrounded by us, right? We're surrounded by it, rather, and there's no avoiding time. You just exist. In that time, I managed to fill that space with reading, training, journaling, creation, and anything else. And now I'm starting to craving being a better man, because I found my purpose. Purpose found in a beautiful woman who I want to be better in. And to be better for someone has a huge category of things you need to do. And what better time to do it than now when I'm in solitude? So how does solitude make you better in relationships? Well, the man who has mastered being alone never actually needs someone, right? He chooses them. And that's the interesting thing, because women don't want you to feel like you need them, because then there's the fear that, okay, well, what if you find someone else who's better? Rather, if you're choosing someone, if you go through all the work and you choose someone, then that's so much more appreciative from their perspective, because they feel chosen amidst, a giant sea of women, which reassures them to the sense that they don't have this fear for you choosing someone who might be better. Nevertheless, if you choose a woman, they're the best. I still believe this is the best woman I could have chosen, the best woman who could have chosen me. I would say a lot of nice things to her, and just for the record, I stand by everything that I've ever said to her, and I truly believe all my compliments are true and from the heart, and I truly believe everything that I've ever said. Now, I'm not going to tell you these things because that's not for you to concern yourself with. The point is that between my ramblings, I do have a purpose out here, and it's to be a better man for a better woman. Thus, the YouTube channel where I get to mark all my findings and give some really genuine advice. So anyways, I digress. How exactly does, this pursuit in a relationship in solitude make you better? How is it actually better? Well, you stop chasing attention, you stop arguing with your insecurity, and you lead with calmness instead of fear. So you learn to be content, you learn to be happy, you learn to be appreciative, while also balancing your desire and your ambition for more. And it's in a really healthy way where it's not balancing where you're sacrificing, it's balancing where you're uplifting. I have this huge, I'm not even going to try, I'm just going to butcher that word, but I just this insane ambition for a lot of things. A beautiful relationship, a woman who I want to make my wife one day and want to spend the rest of my life with. I want to, get out, build a nice house in the woods. I want to have a family. I want to spend time with this person, just be with them, no matter what it is. Just being with them is already fulfilling my purpose. I want to get strong. I want to work hard for them, right? I want to build a big business. And I've learned all of that from my ambition which is derived for my purpose, but I've also am willing to accept where I am now. That doesn't mean I'm like stuck being where I am now and I'm like content almost in the way that where I'm like, I don't need more, I don't need more. I'm grateful in a sense that, oh, I've made a lot of progress. I'm doing pretty good now. Let's get some more. Let's go for more. You know what? Let's double down. Let's triple down because of the progress I've made and be grateful for it. And the principle is a good woman in a good relationship, assuming you're a good man, doesn't want a man who disappears without her. She doesn't want a man who's just going to ditch her or just disappear and say, I'm fine on my own. She wants a man who grows stronger beside her. So while you're in the trenches now, while you're working hard in the trenches, covered in mud, you're grinding your life out, no one recognizes you, there's going to be a woman who will recognize you one day. And you know what? As I said earlier, you're not just building yourself, you're building your identity, and your identity will be one that is self-improving. So once you get with someone, you'll still be improving, you'll still be doing your habits, and they will recognize you improving, and they'll want to help you, they'll want to be with you. That's amazing. Isn't that so precious? I think that is so beautiful. Like, actually, I am so inspired by that sort of dynamic in a relationship. So here's a bit of a practical tie-in. This is what you should be focusing on. If you spend time alone learning how to cook or pray or build something, you bring value to the next relationship or the current relationship that you're already in, not a dependency. So silence is like a mirror. Let's look into it. Let's look how silence really allows you to really reflect on yourself. So when you're alone, you basically get rid of all your excuses to pull you away, and you're just forced to fall into yourself. So I would spend hours and hours pacing my room when I first got here. I still kind of do. Just thinking about the person whom I'm working for, thinking about who I want to be, what I'm going to say, how I'm going to do all this, what I'm going to work on. Because the truth is, time feels like a long time. Ever since the very beginning, I've been telling myself, it's going to take forever, it's going to take forever. But then, forever is going to be over. And it's going to be over, and I'm going to have to go home. And if I look back, I'm just going to say, I wish I did more. So in this moment, I'm realizing, let's do more, let's do as much as I can. Because you don't get these moments very often in your life. So you might as well push for it as hard as possible. But you only realize that by being alone. There's no one to blame, there's no distractions, only yourself, only reflections. And solitude shows you your emotional habits too. So how you talk to yourself, how often you lie to yourself, how much you avoid doing the things that would actually help you heal. Moreover, it allows you to have this innate desire and restructure your emotions. You don't overly get frustrated or obsessive over things in an unhealthy way, rather you obsess in a good way. Right? Which is interesting because people regard all obsession as bad, but honestly, think about it this way. If you're seeing a girl and you're obsessed over her, people say it's bad. Okay, you marry the girl. Now they're going to say you better be obsessed with her. So if you think about it, you can really justify it to where obsession is really healthy. In a very healthy way, of course. Now, if obsession is tearing you apart or hurting you, then it's probably bad. But if you're working hard and obsession is growing you and it's allowing you to work harder and do these amazing things for someone you care about, then it's healthy. But you only realize that distinction when you're alone and have time to reflect on it. So being alone is essential. And if you can't handle the truth in solitude, then you'll never be ready to hear the truth from another person. And that's when life will hit you hardest. People think that when they're all alone and they're really down in the dumps, that's the worst thing. But when you're already so close to, rock bottom, falling doesn't hurt so bad. But when you're about to reach the peak and then all of a sudden someone tells you something like, oh, I don't want to be in a relationship anymore because your fundamental qualities are not what I align with, or I don't appreciate you do this as a result of you not being alone and working on yourself, the fall will be so much greater. So within religion, even Christ withdrew to pray alone. Immediately after being baptized, he went out into the wilderness in the desert and fasted for 40 days while being tempted before building his ministry. So solitude has always been sacred to strong men. It's always been important to men. It's always a test. It's always something significant that allows them to grow. So how do we practice the art of being alone? Well, there's physical solitude, which is like going on walks or runs without music, going to the gym without listening to anything, sitting in silence before going to bed, no phone, no distractions, as I would, pacing my room and just thinking to myself. And then there's emotional solitude, which is reflecting on your journal about your thoughts, or seeking advice from others, sharing advice, or learning to self-regulate, calming yourself instead of seeking validation. If someone's nagging you, just be proud off of not saying anything in return. Then there's creative solitude, which is really important in relationships. Every man should have this additional thing to be creative with, other than in his with a spouse. But building something, writing, photographing, training, reading. I love building something. It's a bit of a vanity project, but I take a lot of appreciation in building something beautiful. And in that, it gives me something to work towards that makes me a wiser man. Even these videos is something that's creative that I'm working towards, and it's pretty good considering I'm helping other people. And you'll rediscover purpose through creation. That's why I say men should really embrace their hobbies and really enjoy them and be the goofy boy. Because first of all, women really appreciate a man with depth who has clear interests and enjoys doing things, especially with her. But it also makes you a better man because you're able to embrace the things that already make you good. And in life, what you should do is you should take the things that make you good, pump them up and make you the best. And then you should take the things that make you bad, pump them up, and then let that become your best too. Because in life, you can take all your weaknesses and have them be your best strengths, and you can take all your strengths and let them guide you through your weaknesses. So here's the closing message. You can be alone, but never empty. Being alone is not a punishment, but it's preparation. You look in religion, God often makes people alone and takes things away from them so you can test them and prepare them and craft them and smelt them towards being a better man in the future. Because the man who thrives alone will always lead when he's surrounded by other people. You can't find peace through another, if that is, you can't find peace through another person, you can always share it once you've built peace in yourself, once you've really made yourself a better man. I always thrived being alone before in my relationship. However, upon leaving my relationship, though I was already a solid man, I'm putting in work to make myself the perfect man. I struggled with depression, I struggled with overthinking, I would have emotional difficulties, but now, given time on my own, not only my practical abilities, like the work I'm able to show is much more effective, but I've overcome everything that's ever held me back in life and in my beautiful relationship. So now when I come back and when there's a regrowth in this, I'll be able to become a stronger man. So anyways, learn to love your own company, learn to love yourself. And moreover, in reality, you're never alone. Sorry, horrible pronunciation there. In reality, you're never alone. Especially if you're religious, you got big man upstairs who's looking over you, who loves you. That's the whole point of Christianity, is you're loved by someone, regardless of how often you think of them. So in reality, you're never alone, no matter how hard you think about it. Because that's the man who a good woman will love too. And if you think about it, okay, well, if you're alone and you're finding company in your loneliness and you're finding company from God, well, then a good woman would find company with you too, because you already have the sensation of love already around you in your aura. So there you go. Overall, the greatest focus should be enjoy being alone. Enjoy your solitude. Loneliness hurts, but solitude will let you grow. And the more you can redefine yourself in those key moments, the more you can sharpen yourself like a sword, is the greater you can be. And if you're already a sharp sword, then think about how wise you would be and how sharp you'd be once you find other like-minded individuals who have gone through something similar. Nevertheless, for my personal goal of being a good man for a beautiful woman back home, this allows me to grow ever closer to that. Though the time is consistent and I still have to wait the same time, in that time I will become a better man, which increases my odds at being a better man who is allowed to love her. Anyways, I digress. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Nolan T. Painter, and of course, I'll see you tomorrow.